So when I was talking to you at Stafford, and you were talking about you clearly would be you're open to opportunities down south if they come about.
Sure.
Yeah, you haven't like.
Yep.
Yeah.
In what like tour type cars?
No, like upper level NASCAR.
Upper level NASCAR, and leaving driving, or in driving.
Racing, yeah.
Oh,
Driving.
that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I mean,
All right. So here's an interesting question.
You have something kind of happening, or you were
not really.
not really?
It's very surface level.
I'm curious to what you had going on. I mean, I don't know what anybody does really.
The first level, I guess, you have to get cleared, and to race a truck or an Xfinity car or anything like that. Like you have to have experience. They don't just let anyone out there.
Right.
So that's either doing the ARCA test at Daytona, and that pretty much clears you for anything 1.5 miles and above, trucks and Xfinity, I think. But if you don't have that experience, like for instance, me, I wanted to see what I would get cleared as. And I have one start at New Hampshire, non-tour, just like an open show, and then obviously a bunch of Stafford Thompson. And that's only good enough for mile and under trucks. So in order to go 1.5 miles and above, you have to run a truck race or do the Xfinity or do the ARCA test at Daytona. And
so have you considered the ARCA test?
No, I mean, maybe.
What does that
in order
cost?
To jump? I heard like $250 a lap.
So you
need like 10.
So I'm just curious. You're doing that in hopes, or do you have something potentially with Mohawk or something lined up?
No.
Nothing like that.
Nope. No. If I would start, it would be. I don't want to go. Like what Justin did. Go right into the JGR. Winning equipment. I'd probably want to start in. The lower tier team, hopefully get a top 20,
right?
15, get your feet wet. I don't have any experience in those kind of cars. Justin obviously has a ton of experience, not in those cars, but he's been racing a long time.
Yeah, so. But wouldn't you think just like, I mean, you're a good race car driver, right? So almost all those kids came out of Legends. Every kid that came out of Legends seems to be just badass on the wheel of anything big, slow, like full-size car, right? And even the mod, right? So the mod versus if you got in a late model, it seems slow motion probably. Because
I've never driven a late model.
But the mod's so fast.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not to you because you do it every week. But I remember when I used to take a step back and get in a late model of Streeter, it was like legit. I used to shit my pants at Stafford in the Streeter because, you'd be like, and this guy's drilling you. And you're like, holy Then when after running the mod, I went back and drove a couple times, finished third and second once. It was like complete different, like total slow motion to me. And like, like you could.
The fendered cars are slower?
Well, the Streeter definitely was.
Yeah.
It was real. I mean, you could be broadside.
Even SK is slow. I mean, you're full throttle on the restart and you just, pull the thing back and it goes into gear. You got to have more finesse in an open car. Like even, this is a classic story about my dad used to tell me when they went from go-karts to SKs, they're coming from doing 120, 130 down Daytona with a flat cart, right? And then they hop in an SK and it's like, this isn't really, that's what he told me. It's like, when I got in it the first time, I was like, well, this isn't really anything special.
Right.
You're not going that fast.
Right.
I don't think the sense of speed is there until you get into a tour car, honestly. Because when you, a tour type restart compared to an SK restart is like steroids, man. You're on it. It's just the tour car is just such a
that big of a jump. See, I only ran a couple tour type races, and one of them was at Claremont. We ran fairly well, but obviously you've had a lot of success. The win up at Thompson, right? Was that in Baldwin's car that you won? Did you win up there?
I won, I think, a couple of times in Thomas, like an open car.
Yeah,
and then in a tour car at Jennerstown. That's a difference too. The tour car, like the wheel and modified tour compared to an open car.
Yeah.
Just spec engine versus open 18, 20
big difference.
Degree, whatever. Oh yeah. It's mostly the carburetor on the spec engine. It's just tons of fuel, so you can pretty much hammer it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to eventually spin tires and whatnot, but it's just and then it goes, right?
Yeah,
Where
right.
with an open 18 degree, whatever, it's like the power's
Right
right
there.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you say before you've never driven a late model? Have you ever driven any fendered cars?
No, nothing like
Really?
that. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't think so.
Never any desire to?
No, of course I would. Yeah, like the ACT stuff looks fun, and I'll bang doors in a streeter if someone offers it, because that looks just like it's
Dude,
a
that'd
ton
be
of fun.
great. Get a ride for the bowl on Saturday.
Dude,
Go
yeah.
50 laps. It'd be great.
Oh, how great would that be?
That would be awesome.
It's really a fun division. It's
Yeah.
probably one of the, I mean, I've driven just about every one.
Yeah.
And the streeters, I feel like, is my home. You know, even though I was in an SK a long time,
Yeah.
I would say I probably had the most fun really in a streeter. There was a lot of dogfights.
Well, I always thought that that's what made, I mean, you and your brother and Rocco, not only did you do it through your career, but you would do it, like your brother especially. I don't know if you have, but yeah, you did, because you would race at the bowl in a mod and then go into Thompson in a streeter.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that you could flip back and forth.
Yeah, I did that whole year.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, that was fun. I love the streeters, though. You know, there's nothing.
Have you ever been like in the streeter and then like had to like check yourself? Be like, oh no, I can't do that. I'm not in the mod. Like, or does it just when
No,
you're
you
in the
almost
car
feel like Superman
when
when you're in the streeter. That's how I kind of felt like I felt like I was the dominant car
yeah
or the dominant driver. That's how I would feel. Maybe I wasn't,
right
but that's how I felt.
The confidence is key, man.
Yeah, I get the SK. I wouldn't know until I got up front. I said, this ought to be good. You know what I mean? Yeah, Uncle's banging on me. I'm like, Sean's like, yeah, Footless used to spot for me. 13 on the bumper. I'm like, already, we're only 7 in. You know what I mean?
right.
You know what I equated to? It made me think a lot about drivers and their ability when I raced for Tommy the past couple years, like dominant race cars in 2022, right? When I won that race at Jennerstown and, other races with Tommy, it really made me think like, pretty much anyone can get in this thing and probably get it to the front, right?
Yeah.
Who knows if they could win or whatever. But obviously it just comes down to equipment with a lot of the stuff. So if you're in a Tricon truck with Zipadelli working on it, with Corey Heim, they're dominating. Nothing against Corey. I'm sure he's a great driver. But I feel like a lot of people could probably do that, right?
Yeah.
He has the experience to bring it from 5th to 3rd or from 3rd to 1st, where some people probably don't have that. But if you're in a good truck, I mean, or a good Xfinity car, good modified, good go-kart, I think you're gonna perform.
What about the tour? Like, is that in your like a box you want to check in your career?
I've been thinking a lot about like, is it necessary? I would do it, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it has the allure that it had, of course, 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Yeah, I
but
agree.
even 5-10 years ago, it was worth a lot more than today.
Probably right.
But I would, of course, get in there. But does that help me in the pursuit of there's two things there. Would it help me in the pursuit of going to the next level? No, probably not. Unless, Ryan did it, but obviously Ryan has his story and Justin has his story.
I almost feel in terms of
I don't
exposure,
think so.
you get more racing in the SK at Stafford on Friday nights.
Yeah, but
than
then
you do
there's a
on the
whole
tour.
nother story about, there's a whole other thing about that where like if you go to, if you think about TRD, like Toyota and who they're looking for, they'll tell you straight out that they're not, you have to get further than your home
Local track.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Right.
But there's lower teams than that.
Yeah.
So you get into a lower truck ride, do a little bit better than what it usually races at. Maybe you'll get some eyes on you, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You gotta have sponsorship back.
Yeah, right.
It's funny because of I talked to them, actually my buddies down there about Corey Heim, and they said, his family came up. They had enough to give, to run the ARCA series. but he didn't have much money, and Toyota picked up a lot of the slack for him.
Yep.
Yeah.
And to put him where he doesn't come from a ton of money, but I know there in particular, they know he can put it all together.
Yeah,
and
if you get picked up by Toyota and they start backing you with rides and whatnot, then you kind of
obviously it worked for him,
right?
Because even Heim has gotten some cup rides, right?
Who was he with?
Couple
Eric Jones, right?
Yep.
This
He
year?
replaced Jones for 2 races.
You could pay to become a part of TRD.
Right.
We could see that with there's a lot. They have a lot of people that are a part of TRD, right? But there's also I think they pick a couple people, maybe 1, 2. I don't know for sure, but like we're gonna fully sponsor this kid all the way through. Whoever that is. This is what I've been told by one of the guys at TRD. I called him, I think, last year, just to get like an understanding of what they do to go after talent and bring people up through their ranks. And so they can pick you up all the way, or you pay the whole bill and you become part of the team, and that you use TRD for the connections and whatnot.
Right.
Or like in like what you just said with Corey Heim, you pay your way to that level, and TRD kind of like helps with the bill.
See, this is like super interesting insight, because a few weeks ago we were having this debate about like, can you really still make it from the short track level? And me and Diego were on the side of like, yeah, if you get some bottom of the barrel ride and you do good enough, like you can get noticed. And then Sid's perspective was like, oh, you got to have the money. And like from what you're saying, it sounds like it's honestly just a balance of both. Like it seems to be an element of like luck involved as well.
Like, I mean, look at Priest. I mean, it's our favorite story as modified drivers from the Northeast. But at the end of the day, he brought. He didn't bring. He had the ability to go to very important people in his life who came up with a lot of money for him to do what he did, and he succeeded at it. That's another thing.
Right.
You have to win. You can't just be a box in Joe Gibbs.
Yeah, he really put all his chips in that 4-race
and it worked
with Gibbs, and he got wins.
Yeah, and he did really good. Yep.
So he spent a whole year at. What was it, JD? I think with that
JTG, the 37, 47.
Before that, in the 4 all red Xfinity car. They're not even a team anymore.
Yeah.
What were they called, dude?
JD, right?
Yeah. JD Motorsports.
Ran like back of the pack. No one even really knew. Really, maybe they had some good runs. I'll have to look at Racing Reference, but like. Even if it was a 25th place team and he ran 20th, which I'm sure he did, that's not what got him to Joe Gibbs.
Yeah.
You gotta fork up some cash if you want to really pursue it.
Well, it's funny because obviously, Brody has been down there racing, so I've gotten the chance to go down there, hang out at Tricon a lot. And I asked the same type of questions, and one of the benefits they said were, if TRD signs you or you get in, and say you get to get in, you have access. They expect you to work out.
Yeah.
They expect you to work out in their 5 days. They expect you to use all the sim time that you can use to prepare you. So I think that's a huge thing at that level. But I think at the end of the day, this is just me thinking, you either old school way, just have to know the right people.
That's
right,
half the battle.
So from my brother's situation, we became really good friends with Dave Gill and all those people, and all of a sudden this whole late model deal opened up, wasn't put to the public, and they said, we're putting Brody in it. It's a fantastic opportunity with Greg Marlowe and Steve Levitt, right? Who gets that opportunity? And it wasn't about the money. And so... And then the next part is the money to go to the next level if they want to take you, because it's still not free. They want to go ARCA racing with Mike Christopher Jr. You have to come up with the money. Listen, we want to go ARCA racing with you. What are you going to do? I mean, what happens in that type of situation for you right now if that opportunity was to arise, even with Zipadelli, because obviously you're probably pretty good friends with him. So listen, Mikey, we can maybe do something like this or that. What can you come up with? Do you have a plan in place ready in case something like that happens?
Depends how long the deal is. If it's a full season thing, then no, not even close.
But
right?
Well, yeah. What if
it's a one race deal and I bring it to the certain people that I know that, and I tell them it's, X.
Kind of like
Butterbean.
Is that his name? What's the kid?
Yeah.
Right. Kind of like a deal like that, right?
I mean, you can put that together, but
Right.
you got to come up with it's.
I mean,
over 100.
Would you be in a spot though? Because it's a realistic opportunity for you, maybe, right?
I think I could maybe come up with it.
Yeah. But like you would have to be ready for that opportunity in case it were to arise, especially if you're pursuing it.
Yep.
Right, because you're not getting any younger.
That's pretty much what drew this whole.
How old are you now, Mike?
24.
24? Oh, you're 25?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's pretty much what grew this whole discussion in my head of thinking about what are we gonna do now, right? Is not getting any older. It's obviously a dream that you like to pursue.
Of course,
I've told people even if it's one race, if it's 10 races, if it's a full season and it's done after that, I don't care. At least I attempted to do it. At this stage it's just difficult because you go to your sponsor and say, hey, anyone can go to a back marker truck team,
right,
and say, hey, here's $40,000 to $60,000, let's do a race, right, or 30, whatever it is. But do you go to your key people who would give you large amounts of money and say, hey, this is the deal, we're going to run 20th to 25th, like, could you give me 10? Could you give me 20 so that I can put this deal together? Like, that's the hard part.
Right.
Where in your situation like that you just brought up, if Tricon comes up to me and says, hey, we can put a 2-race deal together, that obviously looks better to the key sponsors that you have.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, we have a chance to win here, right? But also, I don't have any experience in a fendered car.
Yeah.
How well am I actually going to do? Even if it's at Stafford, right? If they bring the trucks to Stafford, like, I'd probably do okay in like a great car.
That would be the place to do
it.
it.
But I think you would be all right because you would obviously have an open tester too. Prior, they'd be like, listen, we're going to come over here.
Sim only. They don't test.
Oh, they don't. Yeah.
NASCAR doesn't test.
Yeah, true.
You get 25 minutes of practice. Like, what the fuck am I going to do with that?
Come on, surely you'd get like 30, 40 minutes on a new track, right? I mean, when they repaved Sonoma, they gave him 60.
Yeah. But if
but
it still wouldn't be a lot.
Somebody new like him, like he needs to be sitting behind the wheel for a day.
Yeah, they wouldn't do that.
You know what I mean? Just turning laps.
They just don't do it.
Yeah, they don't do that.
Yeah.
You can't go test anymore. So you hop on the sim and you get your 2 hours or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then you show up on race day and that's it.
That deal at that Tricon, I mean, obviously I like them a lot too, but I think all their trucks are fantastic. They're all winning trucks, and anybody that Priest would get in them and win.
Butterbean almost won it.
Butterbean, dude, he was so fast.
He came from the back twice.
Yeah. And I think so. One of my best friends, crew chief's that truck, and then my other buddy, crew chief's Dean Thompson's truck, and Dean Thompson's really fast at times too. I think that would be an opportunity if you could put together. That would be a home run for you, right? Then it's time to put up. Then and you're like, you gotta put your balls up on the table here,
right?
Hell yeah!
Going back to like what you're eligible for, right? So I'm eligible for mile and under in a truck, right? So then you got to look at the schedule. All right, what do we have from right now? We have IRP. And I think they go to Richmond.
Yeah.
And then they have the playoffs too, but your first start can't be in the playoffs.
Right.
So now you're down to 2 races. IRP's in a month, right? So now you're looking at 2025, right? It's so
right.
Maybe put a Tricon deal together for August, September of 2025 and put a couple races together with a lower tier team in the beginning of 2025 just to get like your feet wet. But
right.
I don't know. Maybe I just feel like I would want to have the experience of at least a race or two in a lower team truck instead of going into a Tricon. I mean, this is all just like very far fetched.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, it's fun to talk about. Yeah, right.
Would you do the ARCA Daytona test to like open the door to like the 1.5 and ups?
Yeah. I would not only for the 1.5 and ups, but I got to look if this is the deal. But I'm pretty sure if you do the ARCA test, you're open for Xfinity, and
yes,
Xfinity is way better of a deal than a truck race, just for the publicity, like not only the online presence, but TV. Like I watched the truck race, but I don't think a lot of other people. Like when you look at the sponsors,
I watch a truck race more than I watch the Xfinity myself. Yeah,
Xfinity gets like 500,000 more.
Yeah, I know, but I love the
truck
race. Always reminds me of. There's more grassroots racers in there. There's guys him.
Yeah.
That you'll see.
No, I mean, perspective, it's good.
Yeah, I love the trucks, but if you're looking for top prospects, you're looking at Xfinity.
For
really.
More than that. If you're looking at market wise, and sponsorship wise, what has more eyes on it? Like the sponsor wants to know how many eyes am I going to have?
Yeah.
And at a truck race on a Friday night, you're not going to have as many eyes as Xfinity race on a Saturday, especially because Xfinity usually goes to the same venue as the Cup race, so it's going to be on the same weekend. So that's another thing. You're going to pick a race at IRP in July, which is on a Friday night, but Xfinity and Cup is going back to the Brickyard the same weekend. Like, who's really going to come out to the truck race?
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but my whole point with that is, like, the Xfinity level is much more marketable from a sponsor's perspective.
Right. Yeah, I believe that.
So if you're going out and pursuing sponsors to get money for a Xfinity deal or for any kind of NASCAR deal, they're going to want to go Xfinity probably.
Yeah, but I mean the other side of that coin, right, is you need more of them. Like it costs more to get the Xfinity ride. Yeah,
they're pretty close.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's unexpected.
So you've done a lot of investigative work.
Yeah,
a fair amount.
I haven't done anything to like what can I do about it, right? Like, all right, what's the next step for me? Because I'm kind of stuck there. I mean, I have some people that I've talked to kind of help there, but I always like to learn about a problem or a question that I have before just jumping into it. Right. And maybe so sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad, but in this sense, I want to learn all I can about it.
Well, I'm shocked that Xfinity and truck rides are equal to pretty similar to Maybe not equal. That's
like
honestly
when you
news
go
to me.
from Tricon, which is the top team, to Joe Gibbs, which is the top team truck Xfinity. I think there's a big discrepancy.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
But when it comes to like, hey, I want to run 20th to 15th, it's pretty much the same price.
Wow, interesting.
All right, that was really good, actually.
It was actually awesome. It's
no,
great.
That was so insightful.
I didn't know. I had no idea that
Thursday video checked off.
Yeah, that he was so deep into it. I think it's awesome.